Okay, so we're going to get started here. Today we're going to change the spark plugs out. And if you've never changed the spark plugs on these bikes, they're actually really simple to change. There's two spark plugs on each cylinder on these bikes. And the side on the clutch side is really easy to change. And then the two on the front cylinder on the throttle side can kind of be a nightmare if you don't have the right tools. So we've already got the tank propped up. So what you want to do is you actually just want to remove your two bolts on the top of the tank and then use your prop rod, if you have one, that's usually located underneath the seat. And then we'll go ahead and replace the spark plugs. There's a lot of people on the forums that'll tell you to change the plugs, go to an 8 plug instead of a 9, and a lot of people run the Iridium plugs and don't have any problems. However, I'm going to tell you, from my experience, stick with the stock plug that's made to go on the bike at the temperature that comes on the bike when you purchase the bike brand new. You're just going to avoid any problems down the road. I read something about, I put an 8 in there instead of a 9, and then it runs real good at 80 to 90 miles an hour, and then after 90 I kind of have some problems. Why even mess around with that? Just stick the 9 in there that comes from the factory and have no problems. The Iridiums are real good if you think, I don't think there's any actual proof that those Iridiums actually provide more horsepower. They might burn the fuel a little better and give what seems to be a little more throttle response. But I bought these plugs for $2.99 a piece at my local auto parts store. NGK 2614, that's how well I know this bike. DCPR9Es is what's going in these, I believe. I'll better double check before I release the video, but we'll do this real simple. This will be a real short video, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get into this. Okay, made a little oopsie. They are DCPR9Es. If you can't, a lot of auto parts stores, when you give them that number, they will not have that number. You need to give them the NGK 2641. For some reason, when NGK supplies these auto parts stores, they stock them on the 4-digit code, on the NGK code 2641, and like I said, $2.99 a plug. If you go to the dealership, they're gonna have a little fancier box that's gonna probably say Aprilia or another manufacturer, even for 4-wheelers, ATVs, dirt bikes, cars. All you got to do is cross-reference these numbers, and you could save money by going to the big box stores for the spark plugs. So yeah, 3, 6, 9, 12 cost me $12 for plugs. And the reason I'm going to change the plugs on this bike is I went ahead in the last video and we pulled the high voltage spark plug system off, because what I'm wanting to do is just, this bike has some issues with the fuel pump, and it had the Evolution high spark output box in it, and the spark plugs were gapped. I pulled one of them, was gapped at 0.50, which makes sense. The guy that had this knew what he was doing. You gap him at that, you're getting more fuel in there. He's running a higher pressure fuel, and you're getting more bang for your buck out of the cylinder. But I'm wanting to take this bike a little bit back to stock for the engine, for dependability, because I actually want to ride this bike. This is a rare bike around these parts, but bikes are made to be ridden, not to sit, just like guns. Guns are meant to be shot, not just sit around your house and looked at. So yeah, your gap is 0.24 to 0.028, so we're going to gap them between then. Usually they come gapped at like 0.025, so we'll just double check that, and then you'll ANICs when you put them on. So and these spark plugs are way off. Oh yeah. So we're going to have to adjust each one of these spark plugs. Down back to the proper spec. A lot of people just buy these spark plugs and they just throw them in their bike. Each one of those is gapped different than what they should be. Okay, so actually what I'm going to do here is, before I remove the old plugs, I'm going to plug in one of the new plugs into the coil system that I hooked up. And we're going to turn the engine over and make sure that we got spark from these coils before we get started here. So get these plugged in. So we're just going to turn the engine over and ground this out on the top cylinder head and see if we have spark. I guess it helps if you install the battery. Okay, and now we will. And now we will see if we have spark. Really hope that we do here. And we do. So that's good. So we know our electrical problem is definitely, hopefully, just going to be that that fuel pump. Got spark on that one too. Go to the other side. Then we'll just want to test these as well. I don't know if you can actually see that. See if I can get an angle here. Okay, we got spark on that one. Okay, so we have spark on all four of the ignition coils that I set up. So we'll go ahead and start pulling these these plugs here, get the old one out and the new ones installed. And we're gonna just remove these one at a time. And remove the top one first. Actually, may not even need that swivel piece. Remove the top one first, because if you remove the bottom one, it may get in the way, and it might just be easier to just remove the bottom one. I can't remember. And I'm not even sure which plugs are in this. I didn't even look when I pulled them. I pulled one and I gapped it and I put it right back in and said I'm going to end up pulling them out anyway. And your standard spark plug wrench is going to be a 16 millimeter. Oh yeah, they've been in there a while. And as you can see, look at the size of the gap that he was running on these. I don't know if you can really see that. Take a look at that. I mean, he was getting a lot of spark to that engine compared to the gap that we're looking at now. Big difference. We'll want to go ahead and get some anti-seize on here and then install these new plugs. We'll go ahead and get this new plug put in. You always just want to tighten these by hand and then come back with the wrench and tighten them down. These are not tapered spark plugs. These actually have the ring seal on them. So you have to watch when you tighten them. And when you do tighten them, you're gonna tighten them just a half a turn from them being in the cylinder. Quarter, half. That's it. And next we will remove the front plug. Same thing, anti-seize, and then install the new plug. Then we are going to turn it to get it tight. Okay, we go about a quarter, half, and a little extra there. And that's it. Go to the other side. And then before we go to the other side, we'll go ahead and run these plugs back. Now your larger plug here, your larger boot is going to go inside to the innermost plug, and your small boot will go toward the outside, toward the frame. So just kind of put them back how they came, up through the bottom of the frame. And then we'll reinstall the spark plug boots here. You'll hear them click. Once they're inside on the spark plug, you'll hear it click down. And another thing, if you're doing this, you need to twist these coil caps and make sure that the wires are, that the coil cap is on the wire and not loose, especially if you're pulling and yanking on them. If they're old, the wires eventually do need replaced. I have replaced the wires before because of how old the wires are. They get brittle, and these are actually pretty hard, but for right now we just need to get this, we want to get this bike running, and then just push the cap on until you hear it snap. So that's this side. Now we'll go to the other side, which is going to be a nightmare for that front cylinder. I'm going to try my best to get the video camera in here, but this is going to be a nightmare for me to get the footage of that front cylinder spark plug. So you just have to bear with me here. To actually get just a little bit more room in here, I'm going to remove the idle adjustment, and there's just a 8mm nut holding this on the back side of the frame. There we go. Don't drop this nut. You're gonna, this nut's really small, or bolt. Now I may not get all my terminology right on all these parts and everything, but if you follow these videos step by step, you'll be okay on working on this stuff. We'll just kind of move that aside. And then what you have is, you can see the bottom plug. You cannot see that top plug. There's no way I'm going to be able to get you the footage. And I actually can't remember, to ease the process on my other bike, I actually think I removed the air box, but I'm definitely going to try not to do that. And I do recall this was an absolute nightmare changing this, because of the way that you have to get in here. I've got a variety of tools here, but I think I just used the spark plug tool and then the swivel and a couple of extensions to do this. This is where they kind of design things a little bit to go into the shop for an extra hour worth of labor. And I think this is, yep, this is what I did. So I'll show you the tools that I used here to simplify this process. If you don't use the setup that I'm using now, it is a absolute nightmare trying to figure out the tools that you need to get down in this this front cylinder. So there's some links below for the Amsoil synthetic oil if you live in America. If this video helped you, man, it would really help me out if you check those links out below, because any oil that you buy, I get a little commission on, so I can keep making videos. And I'm starting to look for some buildings so I can move this on, this YouTube thing, this channel on a little bit more, so I can get more stuff here. I just don't work on motorcycles. I can work on basically anything except for cars. When it comes to my daily driver, I pay somebody to work on that. I think I got this all the way loose here. You'll want to use a magnet to get this out of there, just like that. And what you're going to want to do is get a 16 millimeter long, spark plug socket, a swivel attachment socket, and two small, I don't know, what is these, 3-inch, 3/8 extensions. And it will ease this process out greatly, so you don't have to guess at what you need. After you anti-seize, you're going to drop the spark plug back into the hole. And I'd put it back on the magnet and kind of feed it into the hole, and it'll drop in there. And then take your socket and get it over the spark plug. You have to take your time with this. If you get frustrated with this, trust me, I've been around the block here on these type of bikes. And then you'll get your socket over the spark plug and then put your extensions on. And then tighten it by hand here. And you'll see the spark plug will start going down into the cylinder and it'll bottom out. And then we're going to tighten it. A half. Actually, it's not tight. Okay, it just hit tight, so we're going to go a half. Quarter. Half. And then we will pull the bottom one out. Okay, then we got our final spark plug here. Whoopee. This one's a little easier. As you can see why I removed the idle speed adjuster. Same thing on this one with the swivel socket. And we're just going to loosen this one up and replace the plug. Oh, might not be able to. It's going to be bound. remember how I done this one. Okay, it ends up on this one. You just use your spark plug socket and your wrench, and you're going to make little bitty clicks here to get this one out. And it's a nightmare. Once the tension stops, you're probably going to have to get your hand in there to get the tension on it. I actually put the swivel socket back on it to loosen it up. I don't think we're going to be able to get it tight with the swivel set up. And we'll just pull this old plug out and get our new one ready to go. Same thing, we're going to NICs this. Then get our new plug put in. That front cylinder one came out a lot smoother than, or the inner plug come out a lot smoother than this outer plug. Now we got it threaded in there. We'll want to thread it. Actually, I can actually see for when this hits the front of the cylinder head. We're going to try to tighten it up. I don't think I'm going to be able to tighten it with the swivel on there. Well, maybe I can. So we'll just go a half. There's a quarter, and there's a half. And then we'll remove everything, but I'll go a little bit more on this back one because I'm not real sure. There we go. We'll just pull the plug out. Just going to kind of double check that that one's down in the cylinder there, and it is. So what we'll do now is our plug wires, we're going to go ahead and plug those back in. And you will want to remember to put your idle speed one in and do this top one first. And you'll hear it snap when it goes over the plug. And it's a tight fit. There's not a lot of room to do this in. There we go, I heard it snap. Then we'll do this bottom one. There we go. Just kind of double check these because you don't want to have to do this again. And if they're not, if the boots don't go on the plugs, they'll come right off. You'll feel some tension once you get them on there to pull them off. So we're good to go on those. I almost forgot, we're going to thread our idle speed bolt back in. Make sure you tighten this back up. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Okay, there we go. Okay, and there we go. That's how you change the spark plugs in this bike, this model of bike. Now this model, the spark plug change will go from 98 to 2003 and for the Aprilia RSV Milles, and then for the Tuono, I believe it was 2003 through 2005. So this is how you change the spark plugs. And next week or whatever, the next video will be, I'm going to pull the gas tank off and we're going to get the fuel pump out, and I've got to reinstall a new fuel pump, and then hopefully this thing will fire up. I'm really hoping so. So it come from a really good owner, and I don't believe that there's anything else wrong with it besides the fuel pump. But okay, so I'm out of here. Check the links below.